Good evening. Welcome to the December 2nd, 2021 West Sacramento Planning Commission meeting. We continue to meet via teleconference pursuant to Government Code Section 54953, Subdivision E, by which members of the Planning Commission and staff are participating via live video conference to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Members of the public have been invited to watch the meeting via wave cable on our local channel 20, streaming online through the city's website and through the Zoom platform. Tonight's agenda and all agenda item materials are available on the city's website on the Planning Commission page. All public comments submitted by 5 p.m. via email to the Planning Commission clerk are available for consideration and are posted on the city website, along with the agenda and link to the live streaming video of this meeting. Members of the public participating via Zoom may also make oral comments during the meeting. The Planning Commission clerk will note the commenters for each item. With that, we'll proceed to tonight's agenda. The first item up is General Administration Function, Part 1A. Presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the Commission. Do we have any commenters on this item? Ms. Flores?
No comment.
Okay, with that, we'll turn to General Administration Function Part 1B, Correspondence and Staff Communications from the Planning Commission.
Yeah, just one quick housekeeping item to note for the Commission. You may recall at our previous meeting, we had a small parcel map application along Marshall Road that we voted to continue at that previous meeting. In the intervening time, that application was withdrawn by the applicant. So that's why it's not on your agenda again tonight. And I want to make sure that was aware if there's anybody on the call tonight who was tracking that particular item, that's no longer going to be considered by the Planning Commission since it was withdrawn. And I would just like to ask for a moment or two once we get to informal discussion to address the Planning Commission when we get to that point of your agenda. And that's all staff's communication at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Closure ex parte communications. Do any commissioners have anything to disclose today? Let's see. Not seeing it. Consent agenda. Item 2. Consideration and approval of the minutes from the November 4th, 2021 commission meeting. Any discussion?
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Lockhart and a second by Vice Chair. Ms. Flores, can you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Escobar?
Aye.
Commissioner DeAnda?
Aye.
Commissioner Steger?
Aye.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Aye.
Commissioner Berliner? Aye. Commissioner Lockhart? Aye. Chair Sabon?
Aye. Thank you. That the motion passes. We'll turn to the regular agenda. Item 3, finding of general plan consistency for proposed grading activities for 851 Sacramento Avenue mixed use project. This is Mr. Laff item.
Yes, good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. This item before you tonight is a general plan consistency finding for a grading permit. The city received a grading permit application earlier this year for 851 Sacramento Avenue to prepare the site for a mixed-use development. The site is roughly 8 acres, and the grading involves importing roughly 17,000 cubic yards of earthwork onto the site and excavation of approximately 14,000 cubic yards. A provision in the grading section of the municipal code requires that any grading in excess of either 10 acres or 20,000 cubic yards requires that the application also be submitted to the Planning Commission to determine whether the application and the proposed grading is consistent with the city's general plan. This section hardly ever comes up because typically grading on the scale requires some other discretionary action, such as a subdivision map or a use permit. In this instance, the site is zoned mixed-use neighborhood commercial, which permits by right mixed-use development. Any development will need to comply with all development standards in the zoning code. This item before you tonight is specific to the grading. Staff recommends the commission find the grading is consistent with the general plan, as it is to prepare the site for a use that is consistent with the general plan. The applicant has provided preliminary floor plans, elevations, and a site plan for what is likely to be developed on the site. The preliminary plan is for a 5-story multifamily project with ground floor live work along Sacramento Avenue and a small retail pad at the western corner of the site. The live work units will be fronting the sidewalk along Sacramento Avenue, are 45 feet deep, and they would need to be built to commercial standards. Staff has reviewed this proposal and found it to be in conformity with basic zoning development standards. Additionally, staff also recommends the commission find the project is within the scope of the general plan EIR analysis, as outlined in the CEQA technical memo provided as attachment 6 to this report. So this concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and city staff from Development Engineering Division are also on the call, as well as the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Laffey. And does the applicant have a presentation today, or is it just for questions?
Just for questions, unless they would like to, I don't know if they want to introduce themselves.
Vice Chair Berliner?
Thank you, Chair Sablon. I'm super excited to see that something is happening in that plot of land, because it has been, I'm assuming it's been empty forever. It's definitely been empty since I've moved to West Sacramento, but I'm really excited for the mixed use development. I love mixed use. Hopefully, well, I don't know if there's a bus stop there or any kind of transit access. I believe there is. So I'm really excited for that as well. It's more transit oriented development, and I give those 2 big thumbs up. My only question for Seamus, I'm sorry, Mr. Laffey, would be, so I know that this is just for the grading. It's not necessarily for the proposed use of the land yet, but when the applicant does come before us, that, you know, they adhere to the 20% EV chargers, and then more specifically, because this would be 500 parking spots, that we really focus on having, you know, J1772 or universal EV charging versus more proprietary chargers. That would just be my only comment. And I don't think that's a question, it's more of a comment. So thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner DeAnda?
Thank you. I just wanted to echo those same comments, actually. I grew up here. I'm 40. That plot of land has been empty as far as I can remember. And so it's really exciting to see something happening there. The proposed plans that are in the agenda item look great. It's such an important intersection in the north area there, Jefferson and Sacramento Avenue. So I'm really hopeful that this can, you know, really spur some revitalization and awaken that that area. So I'm just glad to see something. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Escobar.
Yes, I'd like to align myself with the previous comments made, and using the equity lens and the goals and the directions and the plans that the City Council has in place. I just really appreciate the work that has already been done the last several of years to get to where we are today. So again, using that equity lens, this is really great use of space.
Thank you. Let's see. Just a quick clarification for our city attorney. So this, do we have to open the public hearing for this one, or is this not a hearing?
I don't think it's a hearing, but we will need to take public comment.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands from the commissioner. Do we have any public comments on this? Mr. Laffey, do you know if the people on the line are they the applicant or here for the next item?
The applicant for this item and the next item are on the call.
Okay, so it looks like maybe no members of the general public are on for this item. Okay. We'll just bring it back to the commission for any further discussion or a motion.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with the previous comments made. So with that, I would make a motion to approve as outlined in the staff report.
Commissioner Hirsch?
Oh, happy to second.
So a motion by Commissioner Lockett and a second by Commissioner Hirsch. Ms. Flores, can you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Steger,
Aye.
Commissioner Berliner,
Aye.
Commissioner Escobar, Commissioner Lockhart,
Aye.
Commissioner Deanna,
Aye.
Commissioner Hurd,
Aye.
and Chair Sablon.
Aye. Thank you. With that, the motion passes. Good luck to the applicant with the project. Okay. Turning to item 4, public hearing regarding proposed development agreements and conditional use permit for cannabis distribution, manufacturing, and indoor cultivation at 2505 Front Street. And this one's Mr. Locke.
Yeah, this one will also be Seamus, and this one here probably set the record for the most development agreements ever considered in one particular item. But he's going to go over those for you and make sure, since each one is an individual decision, we will go through those and make sure that we do cover all of them for you, because I recognize this one is, 3 used to be our max, and I think we're on quite a bit more than that on this one. So Seamus, please take it away.
Yeah, so this item is a modification to a previously approved project. It was approved by the Planning Commission in 2018. And then it was extended by the zoning administrator last year. This is for cannabis indoor cultivation, distribution, and manufacturing at 2505 Front Street. The property is zoned to light industrial. So when this project was originally approved back in 2018, the city and state were still kind of in the beginning stages of figuring out all the cannabis regulations, and the state required that all the cannabis uses be in separate, distinct areas of a building. So when we were writing up our conditional use permits and our development agreements, we were very kind of stringent on where the cultivation could be, or the distribution, or the manufacturing. And we had exhibits in the development agreement about what part of the building that could be in and how much square footage. And then since that time, it's opened up more. So there's a lot more flexibility at the state level for where these uses can be. So this is a modification to the prior approvals to provide greater flexibility to the applicant on where to have the cultivation and distribution and manufacturing. It would allow all 3 of those uses anywhere in the building. The applicant is primarily looking to do indoor cultivation at this facility. And they've actually just recently submitted plans to our building department a couple weeks ago for building out this entire facility. So as David mentioned, there are quite a lot of resolutions and development agreements with this project. So, there's quite a lengthy agenda item in the staff report and a lot of attachments, but don't let all that, get you too confused. I mean, really the ultimate reason why this is before you tonight is to modify a previous approval to allow those 3 cannabis related uses anywhere in the building. So if the Planning Commission is agreeable to all the requested changes, we do request that the Planning Commission approve Resolution 21-15 PC, recommending that the City Council approve all the ordinances regarding the development agreement with the applicant. And then that would then go to the City Council at the next available meeting. So with that, I will open it up to any questions. And the applicant is also on the call to answer any questions that can come up.
Thank you, Mr. Laffey. Does any commissioner have questions for staff at this point? Commissioner Hirsch.
Thanks, Chair Sublime. I just had one question for Mr. Laffey. Looking over the recommended conditions of approval under the project-specific conditions, I know a few months ago we heard from a different cannabis company that was sited next to a school site, and I thought that project had conditions related to making sure smells were contained as much as possible on the property site. I don't know if I'm just missing it, but is that also a project-specific condition for this project, or was there different reasoning for not including it for this project?
The conditions of approval were primarily pulled from what was approved in 2018, and that is definitely important to make sure that odors and noise or any kind of impacts related to this facility are not. We don't. Both the city and the applicant don't want the public knowing that there's a cannabis facility at this location. So those are also within the development agreement language itself regarding odor control. And I don't know if the applicant wants to address odor control as well, but that is definitely important. I'll look through the conditions of approval here.
Thank you. Yeah, and if it's in the development agreement, which I admittedly didn't read that long text, but noticing the project-specific conditions about being closed to the public, no signage, certainly agree with those goals that you just stated and that you mentioned the applicant share as well, for no public access. So just wanted to make sure that smells and odors were also contained. And if the chair would welcome the applicant to speak on that at the appropriate time, I'd love to hear more as well, just to confirm.
Thank you, thank you, Commissioner Hirsch. We can address that when we open up the public hearing. There are no. Oh, Commissioner Lockhart.
And in the previous agreements that the Planning Commission has approved, there's been language about police and fire review. And I just wanted to know, I didn't see that in the documents provided, and just wanted to get some clarification if possible.
Yeah, so police and fire have been involved with the review of this. And we had a pre-application meeting with this applicant a few months ago because they do have approvals already that they've been working on. So during those pre-application meetings, we meet with the fire marshal and Lieutenant Steele in the police department. And as part of the development agreement, they need to have a safety and security plan. And before the building permit is issued, and then it's also checked before occupancy to make sure that the police department fully signs off on the safety and security plan. They do multiple inspections to make sure everything in that safety and security plan is implemented. So yeah, they are definitely involved in the entire process.
Yeah, and we also have an additional consultant that has come on board that will be doing inspections while they're under construction. Then we'll be doing more regular compliance inspections after they become operational to help supplement what our police and fire groups have been doing on all of our cannabis businesses. We're getting to the point now where we have enough of them operational where we needed to bring in some additional resources. So that company, which also has been conducting the audits of our operational cannabis businesses per the development agreement, will be providing some additional services to us both during the build out phase, but then once they become operational. So we feel like we have a pretty good belt and suspenders approach for that. And fortunately, all of our businesses that we have had been operational, some of which been 3, 4, 5 years now, we have not had any substantive problems with any of them whatsoever.
Thank you for the clarification. Very helpful information.
Not seeing any other hands up. So with that, I'll open the public hearing. And if the applicant doesn't have a prepared presentation, I think Commissioner Hirsch, you can present your question.
Thanks, Chair Salon. Again, and just to restate the question, as Mr. Laffey alluded, if it's somewhere in the development agreement or if it's been discussed, I just couldn't spot it in the project-specific conditions, making sure that this agreement aligns with prior cannabis company agreements when it comes to maintaining smells and odors on site. Or if it doesn't, an explanation of why it doesn't.
So while the applicant is getting ready to discuss how they're going to control the odor, I was looking through there, and yeah, it looks like that's not included as a condition of approval. So the Planning Commission could include that as a condition of approval, the same condition that was approved the previous cannabis item. So I'll look up that language right now.
Thank you, Mr. Lapp. So I think this is the applicant, Mr. Gonzalez. Gonzalez.
Yes. Yes, Commissioner. Thank you for the question and opportunity to address the commission. So I'm not entirely sure if it is a part of the development agreement, but it is in our plans to basically use carbon filters throughout every single one of our flowering rooms, which we're going to have 12 different flower rooms, and those standalone carbon filters will do a really good job at filtering out a lot of the odor. You know, we understand we don't want to attract any individuals to our facility, and that's why we're not going to have any signs outside. And it is definitely in our best interest to deal with the odor as much as possible. And so that is in our engineering plans already that have been submitted to the city and are currently being reviewed, I believe, by building and planning.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you.
Any questions? Any other questions from the commissioners for the applicant? Not seeing any hands up. Do we have any public comments on this item?
No public comment.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Flores. Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for any discussion. Are commissioners interested in adding that condition onto the applicant for odors? Commissioner Seeger.
Thank you, Chair Salon. That was going to be one of my questions, whether or not it's necessary. Should we do that now, make that one of the conditions for approval, or is that something that planning will deal with in obtaining building permits?
Yeah, for this week, if you wanted to make a motion, you could make a motion to approve staff recommendation with the added condition to address odors and for staff to develop that language.
Okay.
Yeah,
My recommendation would be to include it as a condition of approval.
Seamus, correct me if I'm wrong here. We have only the development agreements up tonight, not the use permits. Is that correct? Or do we have the use permits?
Yeah, it's all requires modification, so the use permits as well.
Okay, so then that's where we would put that on there. And just for the commission's benefit, we, odors emanating, from where they're noticeable at other properties. That's something that we sort of have hardwired into the basic zoning code for any business, which is actionable through code enforcement. But I think it's particularly important for cannabis in that our part of the safety and security plan is that these facilities, if you just drove by or walked by, you would never even know what was going on inside. And if there are odors emanating, which is, I think, a fairly distinct odor. That would kind of give that away. So we should add something on to the use permit as it relates to cultivation, just to make sure we have that there. But the applicant is correct; they do have plans in, and we will be going through those in great detail once we complete this process and go to the council. If Mr. City Attorney wants to work on a little bit of language, we can be in good shape, and we can just add that on to the use permits tonight as part of your recommendation.
And just for clarification, do we need to state, does the commission need to state what the specific language is, or can we direct staff to add that as a condition of approval?
I think directing staff to add that consistent with the language that was previously used would be sufficient at this point.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Hirsch?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I certainly don't mean to throw a wrench in this. I probably should take a step back, thank the applicant for their answer. I welcome this business, this sort of industry into the city, and it certainly seems from all the conditions that are listed in the packet today, as well as the findings made by staff, certainly think that the conditions have been met. My only intent in asking the question was to make sure that this was standardized with the same odor control as well. So hearing that it's already planned to be done is excellent, and I'll defer to staff and the city attorney on how to word the recommendation. It sounds like the city attorney has suggested I can simply say, I'm happy to move the staff's recommended action with the addition that there be a project-specific condition complying with the odor language from prior commission action. And if that's sufficient, I'm happy to move that action.
That is sufficient if that was a question to me.
Okay, thank you. In that case, I'm happy to move the action, Chair, whenever is appropriate.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hirsch to approve staff recommendation with the added condition of approval to address the odor.
Second.
A second by Commissioner Steger. Ms. Flores, can you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Hirsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Berliner,
Aye.
Commissioner Esquivel,
Aye.
Commissioner Lockhart,
Aye.
Commissioner Deanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Steger,
Aye.
Chair Sabwan.
Aye. Okay, with that, the motion passes. Good luck to the applicant. And this will go before the city council. Is that in 2 meetings, Mr. Tilley?
I believe we're looking at January for that at this time, since the council meets next week. There wouldn't the hearing notices would overlap our meeting, and so we're going to have to go in January at this point, but just based on how the calendar is this time of year.
Thank you, and good luck. So turning to administration function part 2A, informal discussion.
Yes, if I may have a moment with the commissioners. This will be our last meeting for the year based on tonight's outcome. So we will be canceling our regularly scheduled meeting, which otherwise would have been on the 16th of this month. And we will also cancel our first January meeting, which I believe would be right around January 5th, or 5th or 6th, something like that, to let everyone enjoy the holiday season and then recover from the holiday season, this year. So I'd like to thank the commissioners all for your service this year. I know it's been a challenge meeting on Zoom and having many of you be new to the commission. I'm very impressed by how well this group works as a team and individually, and definitely feel like all of you have a lot more experience up there than what you really have. So this has been a good year overall, and I'm grateful for your time on this and putting up with us on staff and bringing these crazy projects with 10 development agreements to you. So what couple items, just housekeeping items to think ahead for everything at our next, in January, our second regularly scheduled meeting, I believe, is on the 20th. And that is also the night where the chamber is doing its big installation, soiree. In past years, many planning commissioners have wanted to attend that. So I would, if any commissioners are intending to go to that, which would obviously conflict with our meeting, I appreciate if you let me know offline, because if enough commissioners want to go to that, we'll end up canceling that meeting too. So, which is not a problem, but otherwise we would meet that night if commissioners remain available. But don't have to decide right now, but I would like to know here in the next week or two as we gear up for that and have to submit a notice in advance, all of that. So please consider that if letting us know if you are interested in attending that function, which is always on our second January Planning Commission night. My understanding is it will be somehow in person downstairs in the Galleria at City Hall, like it has been in the past. And the other housekeeping item of note is that whenever we have our very first meeting in 2022, will be time for a new chair and vice chair. So I will encourage commissioners to consider that. But also I would encourage all commissioners now to thank Chair Sablon for, I think, doing an excellent job this year in guiding our planning commission ship through our time. Really have done a great job, and it really definitely makes our meetings go smoother and also quicker. So thank you for Chair Sablon in particular for doing a really great job this year on chair. I know it's not easy. And so on behalf of my staff, I hope all the commissioners have a great rest of the holiday season, and we'll be looking forward to getting together in January or possibly February, depending on how some of those other events, fall out. So thank you again on behalf of myself and my staff for this service this year.
Thank you, Mr. Tillian, and thank you to you and your staff for preparing. I know that a lot of hard work goes into prepping for all these meetings and getting those 20 resolutions prepared. So you guys always do a wonderful job, and this year was the same. And having to do it for COVID online and dealing with all the glitches and streaming going down, and yeah, a lot of work goes into the meetings, and it shows, and we appreciate that.
Well, I'm grateful for that. It does, but that's our jobs, and you all are volunteers. And so we try to make it as easy for you as we can, so we don't consume too much of your volunteer time away from your families and jobs and babies and all of that. So we've had it all this year, but I think it's been a good year, and I'm looking forward to an even better year next year.
Thank you. And if there's no further discussion, any hands, we will adjourn, and everyone have a happy holiday, and we'll see you next year.
Happy holidays.
Thank you
Happy
so much.
holidays. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Holiday. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Recording stopped.